Hi there, welcome to the Waffle Flower channel. This is Nicole and this is the series It's in the Details, where the card projects all focus on those little finishing touches and details that finish off a card project. Today's cards showcase using the floral borders from the brand new Enveloper Little Birdie stamp set. I am going to be stamping this border along both long edges of this white cardstock panel. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock. I like this cardstock because it's a nice white base, but it's going to work well with watercoloring as kind of like a watercolor cardstock, and it'll hold up much better than a traditional just smooth white cardstock. I am stamping the image to completely fill both sides of this strip of cardstock. You can kind of see it when I hold it at an angle, maybe a little bit. And I'm going to heat set this with white embossing powder. Now, this is going to be a little hard to see until I get some of the color applied. I'm going to be using some of these awesome watercolors, and forgive me, I probably am going to completely butcher, but they're the, Tambi watercolors. And what I love is they're an opaque watercolor. So they're not going to wash out. They're going to really retain that rich, beautiful color. And I'm going to color in anything that I can. Most of the areas are going to be pretty small. I am going to start with the green. In case you have these watercolors, I did list the colors across the bottom of the screen so that you know exactly which ones I'm using. It comes in this really pretty, big, beautiful green box, but I removed the colors, the little individual ink colors here to use for my project, so you can kind of see them in the upper left corner of the screen. And I'm using a water brush. You could also use a traditional paintbrush and just pick up the water and apply it, but I have really been loving using my water brush lately, whether it be for distress inks, with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, other kinds of watercolors and inks, and these particular watercolors. I love my water pen. I like to kind of lay down a little bit of water in the area I'm going to be watercoloring, then pick up my color and take it to that area and kind of just lay it down and let the watercolor do its magic. The beauty of watercolor is in the imperfection. And for this card, the details are really in the background. I'm creating my own background here. So I tried to do all of my green at first. Like I said, it's white on white. So I noticed, you'll see me here in a little bit, have to go back and add some more green. I mainly did this so that I only have to clean out my brush after each color. I don't have to continuously go back and clean off my brush and this and that. So I started with green and then I went to my pink. Gonna lay down some color for some of these flowers, and you can definitely see it start to come to life once I get some of the color laid down. And what's really going to make this pop is adding a light aqua to the background of this design. By going around the whole thing with another color, and I tend to like to go kind of light, but you could definitely go darker if you wanted to, it's going to make all of the white embossing pop so that you can really see the beautiful design of the stamp. Next, I'm doing a little orange. I'm not being particularly neat and tidy. What I love about watercoloring embossed areas is that the ink tends to hold that, or the embossing rather tends to hold the ink and it doesn't migrate. So it's a lot more forgiving than maybe watercoloring a traditional stamped image, which I love. I am not the world's best watercolorer. I keep working at it because I just love the look. So anytime I can find a way to make it a little bit easier on myself like this, I love that. I've done a little yellow, a little purple, all very springy colors. I can definitely tell that we're in the dead of winter here because I'm starting to crave color and spring and flowers. Once I have all of my color added, and I did lift it up and I'm kind of just making sure, double checking I've got everything colored, I'm going to take this light aqua color and kind of lay it down in my background and start watercoloring it out. And I'm definitely wanting a really light wash of color. It can be quite an intense aqua color if you do not add quite a bit of water to it to really wash it out. But as I start to lay down this color, you can see the background start to really pop. I think it's so fun. It's almost kind of like magic. It's one of my very favorite ways to create my own background. I'm going to keep adding that aqua color, keep adding water, and keep blending it out. What I love about these particular watercolors is you can kind of go back. If you see some harsh lines where it may dry kind of funny, you can blend it a little bit more and it's going to be very forgiving and kind of blend out any of those harsh lines. You want to make sure you get around each and every little area so that all of the pretty detail from the stamped image will really show up. So every little bit and piece along both long edge. This strip of cardstock is slightly narrower than a standard A2 size card base, and that's so that when I put it on a portrait style card, it's going to have a little bit of white space on each side, but it is 5.5 inches tall, so it's going to completely fill the area from top to bottom, but it'll be a little narrow on each side. And that's going to serve me well when I go to add my greeting, which is going to be stamped and embossed on vellum. I have just a little bit more coloring to do here near the top of the design. If you want a little bit more intense and want those embossed areas to pop a little more, just don't add quite as much water to your watercolor paint, and it's going to be much more intense. You can see kind of there I got a little bit too much. But it will really even make the images pop more. I'm going to let this air dry. I tend to like to let my watercolor air dry, but if you're in a hurry, you can definitely hit it with a heat tool and it's going to dry much quicker. I have got a strip of vellum here. It's 1 inch wide and I think it's probably 8.5 inches long. And I'm going to stamp a greeting from the Enveloper Choice stamp set that reads, "If friends were flowers, I'd pick you," which I think goes beautifully with this floral design border. It goes with so many of the new release stamps, but I just really particularly liked this greeting. I'm going to emboss that with some white embossing powder. Heat this up. When I create a background like this, a lot of times I want to make sure that it can still be seen through my greeting. You don't want to cover up everything you've just created with a solid piece of cardstock. Vellum is my go-to for being able to still have a legible greeting, but still be able to see through to the background of the card. I did mat this on a little bit of blue cardstock with a really thin border along both sides. It's just going to help it pop from the white background. Hiding a little bit of adhesive behind the embossed areas. I'm going to wrap that vellum piece around my panel and secure it. And at this point, the card could totally be done. Just go ahead and attach that to a card base, and you can put that in an envelope and mail it to a dear friend. I decided to go ahead and add just a few sequins, just a scattering here and there, and that will finish up the card design. I also created a bonus card, and you'll see that in the finished photos, and it's a landscape style card with the border just along the bottom. Everything is basically the same, except the greeting was stamped on that same panel, embossed with the white embossing powder, and then watercolored all over that for the embossed resist instead of overlaying with a vellum border. Thanks for joining me today for this card showcasing watercolored borders and backgrounds with a vellum overlay. For more product information, please visit waffleflower.com. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas.